ladies and gentlemen, we are back with another HSR analysis, and we are here with Himeko, our fire erudition character. Now, for this video, we're going to do it a bit quicker because this is my third time recording as I've been having some audio problems, and I pretty much know the character like the back of my hand. So, we're going to get into it. Fire erudition, what does that mean? Well, erudition means multi-target DPS. That means they're going to be hitting multiple enemies with practically all of their abilities, obviously barring the basic attack. But there are some parts of this character that are also single target. I'll point those out once we get to them. But mainly, the character is a multi-target DPS. Now, starting off with the basic attack, they are basic. They have a 110% single target hitting ability. So we'll just forget about that. Going into the skill, she'll deal fire damage equal to a certain percentage of Himeko's attack to a single enemy, and fire damage equal to a certain percentage of Himeko's attack to any adjacent enemies. Like every other erudition character, we have the primary target and then the two secondary targets next to it, which are the adjacent enemies. That is how that ability works. You'll have a single in the middle, and then two next to it. That's the adjacent. And she does a pretty decent amount at that. 220 with 88 on the adjacent is a pretty decent percentage for the skill, and that's really all the skill does, though. Going on to the ultimate, deal fire damage equal to a certain percentage of Himeko's attack to all enemies, not one single adjacent, but all enemies on the field. And then also, Himeko additionally regenerates 10 energy for each enemy defeated. Now, this last part hints at what kind of playstyle Himeko will have. This hints at Himeko being the character that you'll use in the situations that are, I don't know how to describe them, apart from back-to-back enemies. You're going to have a one set of enemies, you finish them off, you're going to go into another combat situation, another bunch of enemies, and then another bunch of enemies, and then another bunch, and another bunch, and another bunch. She's going to be the AoE ad clearing character. That's the best way I can describe her as an MMO player, is that she's the ad clearer. My point is that she's AoE damage, very little single target so far. But going on to her talent, when an enemy's weakness is broken, bear this in mind, when any enemy's weakness is broken at any time, not from Himeko, but any time, Himeko will gain a stack of charge to a maximum of 3 stacks. If Himeko is fully charged, she deals fire damage equal to a certain percentage of Himeko's attack to all enemies after an ally performs an attack, right? So you're going to get a stack of charge per weakness broken, regardless of how that broken weakness becomes broken. And then on the next ally's attack after she has 3 charges, Himeko will deal AoE fire damage to all enemies. It'll then consume all those things. The last little bonus here is that you'll have 1 stack at the start of battle to give you a little nice head start in the thing. So far, it's just the more you play the game, the more you use the enemy's weakness against them, the more damage you'll deal with Himeko. It's quite standard. And then the technique is you summon a satellite, summon a burning zone, and then for the 15 seconds, after entering combat with that, there's a 100% base chance, which is alterable by effect hit rate, to increase fire damage taken by enemies by 10% for 2 turns. It's just one that you'll use if you're going into a, you know the enemies are weak to fire situation. If you know they're going to be weak to fire, you're probably going to use this thing. But bear in mind, this is one of those techniques that you can use on top of other ones. As it says here, use a satellite to create a burning field, and then when entering battle in the burning field, there's a chance, right? So you can use this one and then switch to another character and then use theirs to engage in combat. Bear that in mind. And so far, with just the skills and everything out of the way, Himeko is looking like a pretty generic character. To compare her to a character, D-Luke from Genshin Impact comes to mind. Nothing super crazy here, just a generic kind of fire damage dealer. They're going to be good for the launch of the game and good, for a fair while after. But they're going to drop off after another fire character is eventually released, who does the job better, obviously. So that's where the character lies so far, but will the rest of her kit change that? Well, let's see. First, Trace. Basic attack has an 80% base chance to burn enemies for 3 turns. That base chance is alterable with effect hit rate. And then, when inflicted with burn, enemies receive a fire dot damage equal to 30% of Himeko's basic attack at the start of the turn. Now, I'm unsure if this part here is a typo on pridewin.gg, but it says Himeko's basic attack damage. They might have meant Himeko's attack damage or something like that, but it does say basic attack, so it scales with this ability right here. So I guess maybe it's good. It's 30% of this last percentage here, if you obviously have it at that level. So maybe that's good, but it's just you have a chance to apply a burn, which you can increase with the skill effect hit rate. And then furthermore, we have Magma, Trace 2, skill damage. Skills deal 20% more damage to enemies afflicted with burn. So you're probably going to want to also run her in a burn team. There's a few characters that do that. I believe Asta or Hook do the same thing. So running it with them will be really good, and just obviously herself because she applies burn. So far so good as well. And then the last one, the last trace, when Himeko's HP is at 80% or higher, increase crit rate by 15% flat amount. which is really good. Makes her a bit better in the opening scenarios of a battle, which is usually when your characters are able to do most of their things. If obviously you are kind of, if I'm thinking it in the mentality that you can is like pre-build up your ultimates and whatnot for the next battle, this is going to be a very good situation for the character because, well, the start of the fight is going to be your strongest moments. So that's that. The character baseline, this is what you get baseline, no Eidolons included, is pretty good. The crit rates thing is very useful and is going to prove very beneficial. And the rest of these two traces kind of eh. And as I said before, the character is easily comparable to Diluc in terms of power in regards to their like position in the game, being an on-launch 5-star. I think they fill the same role of being very good for now, but in the future I can see them dropping off because nothing here is wowing me, right? Nothing here is super wow intensive. So do the Eidolons change that? Because for Diluc, they kind of do, but also sometimes kind of don't. Well, let's take a look-see. Her first Eidolon is, after Victory Rush is triggered, which is her talent, Himeko's speed increases by 20%. Now that's very handy. If we remember back to her Victory Rush, which is her talent, it's the whole weakness broken stuff where you gain charges. So after you gain 3 charges and, you know, cause Victory Rush to occur, you'll get a speed increase, which is quite good. It means Himeko will now go faster, and that's all there is to it, right? It's a nice speed increase. Going into Eidolon 2, deal 15% more damage to enemies with HP values equal to 50% of their max or less. This means the character becomes a bit more of a execute character, as it's called. Executing characters, you know, killing them like instantly once or killing them faster at a lower percentage of HP. Very handy ability. But there's only one problem that I find with this, is that it's usually not an ability put on AoE ad clearing characters. Usually not. And the reason I say usually is because the prime position of ad clearing characters is at the start of the fight. That's where you kind of want their damage to be, because you want to deal with everything at the start straight away, right? But this is a bit more of an execute mechanic. So where is this going to be useful? This is going to be useful, Eidolon 2, is in long drawn ad fights, right? Because I believe personally that most ad fights are going to end within 1 to 2 turns in most scenarios if you're running an AoE based team, because you have so much AoE damage going out, and you're probably going to weakness break everyone very quickly, that you're most likely going to defeat most ads within 1 to 2 rounds, or 1 to 2 turns if I do say. This is going to be a bit more useful in the potentially long-drawn AoE fights, and also obviously help Himeko in single target situations. Obviously, it's not excluding that, but for her current like playstyle, it's AoE. That's where it's going to be useful. So it is useful, but not in every scenario. Next one, skill +2, basic attack +1, standard. Eidolon 4, when her skill breaks an enemy's weakness, Himeko gains 1 additional charge. This is in regards to her talent Victory Rush, which usually after only 1 weakness break, you get 1 charge. This just means that if your skill, her skill, Himeko's, specifically breaks the enemy's weakness, you'll gain 1 extra charge, which you can kind of like think about, you know, like if you break 3 enemies' weaknesses with 1 skill, because you can technically do that as it is a 3 enemy hitting ability, you may be able to get all 3 charges in 1 turn, but that is obviously for very, very specific situations. But that is an okay Eidolon as it is right now. It's not a damage boosting one, but it is an effective, or an efficacy, sorry, boosting Eidolon, which is always welcomed as well. Eidolon 5, ultimate +2, as well as basic attack +1. Very standard. And then Trailblaze is the one that I think that may make her a bit more of a single target based character, and that is Himeko's ultimate hits 2 more times. You have the initial hit, and if you have Eidolon 6, you have 2 more, to a total of 3 hits, with each additional hit dealing damage equal to 40% of her ultimate damage to a random enemy. Now, you may be questioning, it's random. How the hell are you going to make that single target? Well, if you just put her against 1 enemy, right? So if you just put Himeko with C6 against 1 single enemy, her ultimate is practically going to be no, I won't say equal to, but it's going to feel like damage that just a hunt character is doing, right? It's going to feel like that because it's so much damage. It's like almost double casting your ultimate, because the base value right now is 237%. So that's what you get a guaranteed get. And then 2 hits, each hit dealing 40% to a total of 80%, means that you're probably going to get 237% plus about 200% worth of damage, which is, by the way, a lot of damage. Like, it's a ridiculous amount of damage, just cause you can, right? And so with that in mind, it's also going to give you more energy because you're probably going to get a kill or something like that. But yeah, that's going to make her a bit more of a single target character, because you can put her in single target situations where her ultimate will deal a very large amount of damage to that one enemy, almost guaranteed, right? So bear that in mind. Eidolon 6 is great. Now, most of the Eidolons are fine. Your highest value, though, like in terms of a ratio of investment to value of performance, is Eidolon 1 and 2. After that, you don't have a lot of value until Eidolon 6. It's good, don't get me wrong, along the way it's good, but Eidolon 1 and 2 are your highest bang for your buck, so bear that in mind. And right now, the character's great, right? The character is what I would define as pretty good, right? It's pretty good. So you have, without Eidolons, the character is just a fire AoE damage dealer, and you're going to use her in those situations. Burn is kind of a thing there, and it's good, and the percentages are great and everything for all of it. And that's that. That's really all it is. You add some Eidolons, and it makes her gameplay slightly stronger, and, it makes her gameplay slightly more fluid, and, helps her out in a single target scenario. But again, nothing's blowing me out of the water here, except for the fact that she's just kind of getting a bit of a boost, right? She just injected a stim pack, essentially, and made herself adrenaline heavy, right? Which is fine, right? It's completely fine to have characters like this because she is a part of the starting roster of characters. I believe you also get to use her in the tutorial, so she's a tutorial-based character. So it's absolutely acceptable and expected for her to be like this, and that's fine. But furthermore, we have light cones to look at to maybe enhance the character a bit. And for that, we have the Erudition 5 stars. Now, there's only 2 for these, and that's fine because one of them is her signature and the other one is her best in slot. So her signature is for every enemy on the field, increase the wearer's attack by a certain percentage, stacking up to 5 different times. So that means you can get 8 times 5. But I do believe once the enemy dies, you lose that stack. But I could be corrected about this in the comments by all means. That's just how I think it works. And then furthermore, when an enemy is inflicted with weakness break, the wearer's damage increases by a certain percentage for 1 turn. This is fine. It plays into that whole weakness breaking mechanic that she so loves, and it's good. But it also means whenever any enemy is inflicted, doesn't necessarily have to be Himeko, you'll get this bonus, which is a very nice extra bonus, meaning that you can do it without her turn, and then once it's her turn, that she'll get this bonus, right? So far, it's good. But her own light cone is outshone by Before Dawn. Now, Before Dawn, only half of it actually is applied to Himeko, by the way. This last part here is to do with follow-up damage, or follow-up attacks, so I won't read it, but it's to do with follow-up stuff. The best parts about this is this first 2 sentences. First part, increase the wearer's crit damage by a specific percentage, and then also increase the wearer's skill and ultimate damage by a specific percentage. That right there just immediately outshines it because you get 2 different multipliers. On Himeko's signature, you only have attack increase, as well as maybe just damage increase in specific situations. Whilst on the left, you have crit damage multiplier, which is always good, by the way. It's an increase of an actual multiplier, as well as skill and ultimate damage increase, which is always welcome. The values, they do seem to be a bit lower, obviously because of the ultimate damage. This is obviously stackable up to a certain percentage, but bear in mind that this is a static 20% and a static amount of number, while this may be a variable depending on the situation. That is going to be the difference. So Before Dawn is going to be her best in slot, but Knight of the Milky Way is her signature. Now, expecting people to equip 5 stars is not something that I like to do. Having 5-star like weapons and light cones and whatnot like that is not a standard. Standards are 4 stars. Now, out of the 4 stars here, which one is going to be her best? It's going to be Seriousness of Breakfast. Increases the wearer's damage by a certain percentage, and then for every enemy defeated, the wearer's attack increases furthermore by a certain percentage, stacking up to 4 times. The reason that one's good is because it plays to her strong suits, defeating many enemies, getting, constant refreshing of certain things, and just, cycling through enemies. One wave comes in, you kill it, another wave comes in, you kill it, so on and so forth. It's a cycle. So that's going to be her best. Today's Another Peaceful Day is going to be her next one, but it's a bit hard to kind of come to an exact value on this one, as I don't know the energy cost of some of these characters' ultimates, as Pridewind doesn't include energy cost in their, part of their, characters. It's hard to kind of say if this one's going to be super high value or is going to be mediocre value, because this has a cap of 160 energy. So if the character has more than that, it's not going to be as good. If the character has a lot less than that, like 100 or something, it's not going to be that good. So it depends on how much energy the character's ultimate costs. So bear that in mind, but it is still going to be a good one. And then the other one is going to be Make the World Clamor. It just gives you ultimate damage and a bit of energy regeneration at the start of a fight. That's why it's not the greatest, is that it's specifically ultimate damage. So it's kind of iffy. So just use Seriousness of Breakfast. I'm not even going to get into both of those self because it's follow-up, or rather, follow-up attack damage. So don't even worry about that. Just use Seriousness of Breakfast if you do have it. As for the 3 stars, just use whatever the hell you have, I guess, at that point. If you have 3 stars, it's just use whatever, right? But data bank is going to be good. Anyway, relic sets. This one is also quite simple and straightforward. Just use the fire damage one, Firesmith of Lava Forging. It's fire damage plus skill damage plus fire damage. That's all it is. 12%, well, actually, it's 22% fire damage in total, but 10% on the 2 set, and then 12% skill damage on the 4 set, plus after ultimate, increased fire damage by 12% for the next attack. It's not a permanent 12% at the end there, but it's just for the next attack, so situational. But still, regardless, Firesmith of Lava Forging is going to be your best bang for your buck for this character in terms of the relic sets. As for planetary ornaments, there's situational ones. It's very situational right now, at least in my mind. But for DPS, you're looking just for damage output. Space Sealing Station or Celestial Differentiator will be your go-to here. Celestial Differentiator, crit rate increased by 8%, thus, further, giving you a little higher chance of critting, as well as basic attack and skill damage increase at 80% crit rate, which is not probably ridiculous to achieve with her trace. So that's going to be very good as well for damage dealing, but also Space Sealing Station, which is a flat 12% attack increase, and then a 120 speed dependency for another 12% attack increase, which is also going to be very good. So that's going to be for flat attack. If you want to use the character a bit more in line with if I'm to describe it, a bit more of a switch in, switch out support character from Genshin, if I'm going to use that analogy, then I would recommend Talia, Kingdom of Banditry. Now, the reason is, with this build, and with Talia, Kingdom of Banditry, and if you go for a break effect build, because obviously I'm not talking about substats, and I'll talk about substats in the future once I have a lot more information on it. Once you, going in line with the character's break effect build, you may be able to kind of use her talent as one of the major sources of damage if you take Talia, Kingdom of Banditry, but obviously that's only going to be effective against characters that are weak against fire. So Talia, Kingdom of Banditry is not for every playstyle, but you may be able to get 3 charges very quickly with her talent and with this specific planetary ornament. And that is that. Those are the 3 I'd recommend, but obviously each one of them has a specific kind of build. The final recommendation is going to be Space Sealing Station, as it is generic! And that's going to be Himeko. Himeko's a straightforward character. She just deals fire, AoE, damage. Nothing more to it. You can play around with certain things and make her a bit more niche, but bare bones, bare structure, fire dealing damage character, AoE, attractive, big boober, big woman, big fun. Love to see this kind of character, but it's sad to admit that this character is going to be the D-Luke of HSR. They're going to immediately drop off the face of the earth in terms of usage once another fire character comes out. But then again, that's gacha games in a nutshell. Am I right or am I right? Characters just fall out of existence once the next one comes out because we have the attention span of a goddamn goldfish. But that's the end of this video, boys. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed Himeko's little analysis, like and subscribe to the channel, like the video and all that, support the channel and all that cool thing. Another one is coming probably tomorrow. This one's a bit later. I do apologize. Just a few, discrepancies in the day. So tomorrow is going to be on time, hopefully. Actually, maybe not. I'm not too sure. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, do all the cool things and support the channel. And a tier list at the end of once we finish the 5 stars is coming, so look forward to the tier list. I'm compiling it right now in my brain, and I might have to write some things down. But yeah, have a great day, guys, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out.